Welcome to the On Point Podcast, a channel dedicated to helping you be the best hunter you can be. On Point is designed to help motivate and inspire you to get more out of yourself and your gear during your next hunt. If you're looking for information that will directly impact your success and help inspire you to go on new adventures, whether you're hunting with a bow or a rifle, On Point is the channel for you. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3. This episode is going to be brought to you by onX Maps, and I think next episode I'm going to draw for the next winner of the single state membership for the onX Maps. And if you guys haven't heard, I've said it in every episode so far, I use them literally every single day. And I've had to really rely on them because I'm not seeing bears in my regular hunting spots. So I'm venturing out, learning new areas, and this has exponentially sped up my learning curve for new areas, not taking dead-end roads, just knowing exactly where the units are at. I found my first Roosevelt shed because I was using onX Maps. I knew there was a unit past these blowdowns that were covering a road. Walked in a couple hundred yards, and there was a Roosevelt shed literally right in the middle of the road. So no one else had known that there was a unit back there or wanted to walk in that couple of hundred yards. And it just turned up to be a great little spot that I will be back. I will be hunting that spot. And that is 110% due to having onX Maps on the go and knowing exactly where each road went to before I've even been there. So huge benefits to using them. Saves you tons of gas money, saves you a ton of time, speeds up that learning curve, and you know where you're hunting, whose land you're on. And that's absolutely vital over here in Oregon. I'll tell you that right now, especially Western Oregon. But they have provided a membership for a single state, and guys, your chances are really good at winning. I think there's only been like 5 people that have entered in the giveaway by leaving me a review with a comment, and I'm telling you right now, your chances are super good. There'll probably be less than 10 by the time I actually draw the name out of the hat for the next winner. So do yourself a favor, do the podcast a favor, leave me hopefully a 5-star review if you think I've earned it. Be sure to leave me a comment because you will not get entered if you don't leave me a comment because I won't see who did it. So hopefully you guys can do that. It's really quick, really easy. Just go onto iTunes, look at the podcast. It'll take you literally a minute and you'll be done and you'll be entered. So, but this podcast is about pack goats, and Wayne Sherrard is back on the show. While I had him for the blacktail episode, I took advantage of the time. We also did another episode on pack goats, which he's very passionate about, and puts up a great fight for why you should use pack goats instead of other animals, and really has my attention. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you're interested in learning more, you can get a hold of Wayne. He is very reachable. The contact information is at the end of the episode, and I really hope you guys learned something out of this because I know I am definitely more interested in using pack goats in the future than I was before. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye. Okay, and we're live. So now I'm with Wayne Sherrard again. He was on the podcast previously talking about blacktail strategies, and he's got some other stuff going on about pack goats. Yep. And he's the goat man, the blacktail and the goats. So tell me what's going on with you and your goats, because you have I've been over to your house a few times, and these goats aren't goats. They're like trained dogs, man. Like they don't, like you tell them where to go. You put them in their stall. They all sit where they're supposed to go or whatever.
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah, goats are very special critters, and I don't think a lot of people really understand. Man, even people that know them probably don't understand the depths of how intelligent they are and how fun they can be. So yeah, I'd say that they're just as sharp as a dog with any kind of brains.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. Only the thing is I don't think I've ever had one that was really dumb. They all seem to kind of get it. They're pretty food driven, so when you saw them go into the stall and they go stand in front of their food dish, that's not really that hard to train them.
Oh, okay.
I can teach them that in about 2 days. I mean, they want to eat, so.
I'll be darned. So what made you get into the goats?
Well, it's funny because years ago, I'm kind of into reading books and sometimes off-the-wall type books maybe. And, one of the things I noticed when I was in the military and I was traveling all over the world was that there wasn't a country that I went to. There wasn't a place on the planet that didn't have goats. Everybody had them. Somebody had them everywhere, right? Which I thought was interesting. And I just always thought they were kind of an interesting critter, and I never really was around them much. But I ran across a book called I can't remember the exact name, but I think it was called The Pack Goat, and it was by John Mayazinski, and it's still in print. You can still get them. But I read that thing, and it kind of opened up my mind to goats, and it was just, I was kind of blown away. People really use them for pack animals. They got to be out of their minds. So how I got into them was we initially got a couple of goats because, you've been out to the place. It definitely, a few years ago didn't look like it does now. I mean, we were overrun with briars. I'm kind of a little bit environmentalist because I don't like to use sprays, and even more, I don't like to run a weed eater to try and control briars because you know what that's like. It's an ongoing task that you never win.
It's almost futile.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of goats from a local breeder here in Roseburg, and I never thought about the pack goat thing at the time, and we put them out there, and they really did. We had to help them a little bit, throw some branches on some of the tall briars, but you see it now. You walked out there; it's a field.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like a pasture.
Yeah, it is. It's pasture.
Yeah,
and so they've really helped. And since then, I no longer own Roundup or Crossbow, or I still have a weed eater.
Hardcore,
but I only have to use the weed eater in the front yard, right? Yeah. So, I'm set up pretty good to have them, and so it's worked out really well. Well, after I got them, I was blown away and amazed at how tame you can get them and how they can just, they really become your buddy. And so I went back to that book, and I went to Barnes & Noble. Well, Jen went to Barnes & Noble's. So okay. I went and I thought, I'm going to see if I can find that book. Well, it wasn't there, but there were some other books there. And so I grabbed them up, and I took them home, and I read more. And then I started doing a little bit more research, and it's not really a new thing. It's probably been around 30, 35 years. Well, heck, it could have been around longer than that in other countries.
The pack goat game?
Using pack goats.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just started to get more involved with it and decided, I'm not getting any younger. This is a great idea. They're the cheapest pack animal out there on the planet, number one. I mean, if you've ever owned a horse, and I haven't, but I know plenty of people that do, they're a money pit.
Yes.
They're going to suck you dry of feed and tack, and if you're not working them or using them or doing something with them, what's the point? Because you're just kind of throwing your money away.
Right.
These goats, I will admit that I probably spend more money on them than I need to for supplemental feed, but virtually, goats are the only animal known on the planet that can adjust their metabolism. So I wouldn't even have to supplemental feed. I could just literally kick them out there and let them feed on that, and they will adjust their metabolism to be able to survive on just what they have.
Seriously.
Once I found that out, it set on the light bulb and made me realize why goats are worldwide.
Well, you wouldn't have to bring feed in there to hunt with them or anything.
No,
like they're going to eat whatever.
They're going to eat whatever. They're actually a camelid, so they're the only other animal that's close to a camel in retaining water.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. There'll be times where my goats will suck water like crazy, but then they won't even touch that stuff. I mean, it's weird. They're just, they know what they need when they need it.
That's interesting.
So they're kind of self-sufficient that way. I don't think people really know what all a goat can tell, but I've read studies where they can actually tell just by the scent of foliage how much nutrition they can actually get out of that.
Seriously.
So they'll pass it up if it's not prime ripe for the taking, because they know they're not going to get the value nutritionally out of it, so they'll go find something else. And I know it's true, because I watch them in certain times of year. They're hitting on this, and then they'll be on that, and then they just kind of go around, and they're always changing. They're the only pack animal that you don't have to lead, which was another huge thing for me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you don't have to have them on a lead rope. If you have llamas or mules or horses, most people have them tethered, or they don't just follow along. If they're not riding that critter, it's tethered to one that they are riding.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I do put collar. My goats are leash trained. I can walk them on a leash, but when we're out there, they're not on leashes.
They're just following you around the woods?
They follow me everywhere I go.
Really?
I mean, most of mine are dam raised. I mean, you've met Shrek.
Yeah.
Okay, now Shrek is my bottle baby. He's my bottle kid, the only one I have. And he's a very special goat. He really is. You can tell that. He wants to be with you all the time, which is fine, and it's great. But it becomes kind of a nuisance sometimes, because he's always right in your butt, And the other ones are dam raised, which means they were raised off their mother.
Okay.
And they will kind of, they'll kind of venture out a little bit, but if they can't see you, that's too far.
Really?
And they come right back. So generally what I've noticed is if I keep the pace, if I keep going and basically force them to keep up, they will follow in a line behind me just like a mule train. They'll just follow right on along. And then when you get into the bigger timber where you're slowing down, maybe we're shed hunting or something, when you're kind of looking, then they'll kind of spread out and do their little thing, but they don't go very far. And generally, if we're shed hunting, we have the dogs with us too, and they make sure they don't get too far.
So how do you gather them up when it's time to gather them up? Say you're like digging around for sheds, and you got goats in a 20-yard proximity of you. Can you like whistle or anything like that? Or
most of my goats know their names, and some of them will come.
Okay.
Some of them they don't. I mean, again, they're very food driven, so a peanut will sucker them right in. But generally, if I want to gather them up, I just start walking.
Okay.
And they'll all catch up to you. And then when they do, I'll turn around, grab them, and leash them up. And sometimes that can be a rodeo if they don't want to be caught. Usually it's not a problem, but sometimes they don't. They're not ready to go. They want to go eat on something, so they don't want to be caught. But at home, it's way easier. Because all I have to do is walk up to the gate, and they're like, either we're eating or we're going somewhere, and we want to do it. So that makes it pretty simple.
So why are all your goats except Shrek dam raised?
Because he's kind of a nuisance.
Okay.
A little bit. And
it's not because one's better than the other, or?
No. If you start studying pack goats and really getting involved, you'll find that the vast majority of people want bottle babies, because the bottle babies form a tighter human bond. Okay. Theoretically, that's what they say. What I've noticed is most of the people that raise bottle babies, there are some pack goat breeders. They'll that the kid will be born. He'll stay on the mom for the first 2 or 3 days. There's some important colostrum and stuff that they get from the mother that they have to have, and then they pull them away. And they sell them as bottle babies. And your mind thinks, well, wow, they go out there and they bottle feed this kid, and that'd be so much fun. That's not really what they do. They have these like 5-gallon buckets with a bunch of nipples on them, and they fill that up with milk, and then there'll be like 6 or 7 goats feeding off of it.
So there's no interaction with humans.
Not really.
It's like a bucket.
I mean, which puzzles me, because the interaction is that they know that you're going to dump the milk in the bucket. So they look to you as food, right? So I just, my thought was, how do I duplicate that without bottle raising, right? So if I get a dam raised kid that's only been fed from his mom, and a lot of the goats that I have, not all of them, but a lot of them, they really didn't have, I'm sure they went out there and petted them a couple times a day, but that's about it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I came up with the idea to feed them in the stall the way I do. Everybody's got their slot. Everybody gets tied down. It does two things. First off, they get used to being tied up. They know they're going to get off, so they don't fight it. They just stand there. They know you're going to feed them. And during that, it takes them maybe 20 minutes or every night to eat or something. But during that time, I'm out there with them. And I spend time with each one of them. And I make sure I say their name, and I touch them, in play. If they don't like being touched somewhere, I'm molesting them, touching them there to get them used to it.
Okay.
Because eventually they'll just learn to trust you. And one thing I've found with goats is if you're one of those guys that gets mad easy at things, and they're not for you. You can't freak out when they don't do what you want. They don't take you hitting them, really, or yelling at them. I mean, I yell at my goats, I guess, but when I yell at them, it's more like, "Hey, knock it off." It's not like I don't flip out and throw the goat across, because you've just, whatever you've gained, and I don't care how many years you've had them, you've just lost it all.
Really,
and you got to start anew. They're that smart, and they don't want anything to do with you if you're going to be mean to them. So I'm not. I've really learned a lot. They've taught me to be patient. They've pissed me off. I mean, they have. So you just kind of got to bite it and stay calm. When I first had them, I had these two Sonnen girls. They were twin girls, and they were does, and I don't know why I got them. I no longer have them now, but they were pretty wild. You couldn't touch them. You just, when we went and picked them up, the girl that raised them, they had like 130 acres, and so I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be like anything else. You go there, she'll have them ready for us, and we'll get them, and it'll be fun. And she's like, well, we got to go find them, and I'm like, you got to go find them? She's like, yeah, they're out here somewhere. And so we get down there, and she starts to calling and whistling, and man, there must have been 70 frickin' goats in this herd. They all come up out of the pucker brush, and I'm like, oh my God. And she goes, oh, don't worry, I painted them so I know which ones they are. And she would wade through the middle of these goats, and she'd walk up all nonchalant behind them and then reach out and grab them by the back leg. And that's how she caught them.
Really?
Yeah. And so we load them up in this dog kennel. We get them home. They're freaked out. You can tell they have not had, the only human involvement those goats had was having their horns disbutted, which is painful. Right, because they burn them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when they're little, like a couple days, as soon as they start seeing the horns come up, they use a burning tool and burn it.
And that just keeps them from growing?
It keeps them from growing.
Weird.
So that, and then they got tattoos in their ears. And now we have them. And so what do you think?
They're thinking they're going to
They're thinking, screw these people.
Yeah.
So it took a lot. It took over a year to get to where you could just... Or they just walk up to you after that, I mean, you saw it. I mean, they're just friendly.
I mean, I was a stranger, and they all came up and wanted petted.
Yep. But I learned the hard way and they were great teachers. I walk my goats. I take them. I put them up every night because obviously in Oregon we have a pretty good cat density, and there's no reason for me to be working this hard on these goats and just get them whacked in the field. So we put them up at night to where they're safe, and I walk them. To and from different pastures there. When they were little, man, they'd just take off across the yard, and I'd be out there trying to catch them, and the harder you try, the faster they are, and I don't care who you are, you're not good enough to catch them if they don't want you to. I would rope them, and that just set me back, and I finally figured out that, if I just don't pay them much attention, like when they want to get skittish, and just stay calm, it's amazing the response you get out of that goat. And it's worked, and it's helped me in the future with the other ones. Dubs, my big white one, that thing, he would come unglued if you got near his head or anything. Didn't like being touched. And now you can't even hardly back him off you. Like he's kind of a nuisance sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He's the biggest goat I have, and he's a great solid pack goat. Definitely not the most athletic one I have, but he is gonna be one of the better ones. Him and Shrek. Shrek is definitely not athletic, but he will go all day long.
Hmm.
I mean, you're not out walking him. So
He's got a lot of personality, too.
he does.
Yeah.
Tons of personality.
So is there certain goats that you would say would be better than other like species?
Yeah, and
They're
you know,
not going to go like a pygmy goat.
no, I mean, but you certainly could. See, and that's the thing. That's the thing about a lot of the stuff that's out there on the internet. What I'm seeing is that there's a very broad spectrum of people that want to have pack goats.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the focus, what I see on like the YouTubes and stuff, it's mainly guys that want to use goats for hunting purposes.
Yeah.
Okay, which is great. But those goats don't necessarily have to fit the bill of just like your casual hiker. So, they're promoting and selling goats that are freaking huge. They've bred them to standard specifics for pack goats, and so they might be more goat than the average person would want. If you just let's say your family enjoys hiking into some of the high lakes to do fishing in the summer, in the wilderness, right?
Okay.
And you want to pack in your camp gear, right? You don't need a 300-pound goat to do it.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge goat.
You don't need that. A Shrek is like what do you say is 180?
Yeah, I was thinking smaller than that. Yeah, maybe 180.
Yeah, they are different than like a deer. Like if he doesn't look like a deer, you'd think, well, God, 150-pound blacktail's bigger than him.
He's probably more dense.
Yeah, he's a lot more dense, and he's shorter than that deer is. But that deer has legs like this big. Shrek's legs are that big.
Okay.
I mean, so they're a lot stouter. But that goat will walk anywhere.
Huh.
And you have complete and total control, and he'll be able to pack plenty of gear. So
How much weight are we talking about for a good-sized goat?
45 to 50 pounds, I think you could put on your giant ones. 35 to 40 on pretty much any goat I have.
Really?
And that's talking. You're not going to want to push them too far, but if 12, 15 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
So if I'm maybe just going out solo for elk, I pack 5 goats with me.
6 to 7, you could pack the whole thing out, and the only thing you'd have to
We're
carry
talking
is the
elk.
head.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm talking elk automatically. You went straight there too,
right?
To elk. So you need 7 goats, and now you just got that whole elk out.
Yeah.
In one trip.
And all you had to do is pack the head.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And that for a lot of guys, that means going farther. That means I can stay probably longer because I'm packing gear in there. I'm not worried about ruining the meat probably.
No.
Because I'm going to get it all out in one trip.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much a game changer.
It's a game changer. And the reason I really started getting into it, I mean, I'm 47 years old. And my goal was by the time I'm 50, I want a solid string. I mean, so that I can still my kid likes that high cascade hunt. She's always loved it, and we've had a lot of success, but I'm not getting any younger. And it's not an easy hunt. No. And there's a lot of climbs, and you got to go in. You got to beat that other guy, and you got to get in there. And the older I get, the harder it is coming out with them. It's not getting in there. It's coming out with them. So I just thought, man, I already have these goats. Maybe I can use them. And I started talking to guys that have pack goats, and they're like, they're junk goats. They're not this, they're not that. I don't believe that's true. I believe that any goat has the potential if you know what to look for. There's a lot of things that you need to look for when purchasing a goat. Obviously, breed specifics are huge.
Yeah.
Most of them are large breed dairy goats. The vast majority are alpines or crosses of that variety. I love a cross. I love a crossbred goat.
Why?
I don't really like the alpine goats. They have a lot of attitude.
Okay.
They just do. They're just kind of shitty a lot of times. But when you cross them with something like an Oberhasli or a La Mancha, those are really sweet-natured Saanens, those white ones, really sweet-natured, easy-going goats.
Uh-huh.
you have a tendency to get that easygoing goat with that hybrid vigor of a big Alpine. Now you've crossed it, and now you've got. So a lot of times they're even bigger. Just doing that cross, it'll make the goat a little bit bigger, and you can offset that attitude a little bit.
Okay.
Like I think I have one goat that's a purebred goat.
Really?
The rest of them are all crosses of. La Mancha is my favorite. Those are the ones with no ears, like Shrek.
Okay.
They have no ears.
Yeah.
And he's an Ober La Mancha cross, Ober Hasley La Mancha cross. So Dubs is a Saanen La Mancha. So he's, that's why he's white, because all Saanens are white. So,
okay.
And you can see he's huge. I mean, he's just a yearling. That goat is giant.
That. Yeah, he was.
He's just a baby.
That's crazy.
So, and he's easily as big as Shrek, maybe not quite as wide and dense yet because he's not mature, but he's taller by 2 inches and dang near as wide. And I'm guessing that goat will probably go 225 to 240 pounds when he's full grown.
So let's get into who would be a good candidate for getting a string of goats. What's it take property wise, cost per month? What are we looking at there?
I have almost 8 acres, and I keep my goats to 1 animal per acre. But I'm doing that for myself and for my goats' best health. Okay. I have the ability to rotate pastures, which is huge. So if I keep them here for 2-3 months and then I rotate them to another one, it does 2 things. Since I have 3, it allows regrowth. It allows this to regenerate and never gets just turned into a dirt lot. But it also helps with parasite preventative.
Okay.
Because, they're not eating where they're crapping and stuff all the time. You want to have some browse. One of the things I learned early on is that when you feed your goats, you want to feed them up off the ground. You don't throw their hay on the ground because they're going to step on it. And when they step on it, they've been stepping in crap and they're contaminating it. And you will have to worm them. And if you have to worm them very often, they will the worms will become resistant to whatever you're using. That's not good. I've wormed my goats probably twice. That says a lot. They're in good health.
Okay. I see. For a guy that knows nothing about goats, that's not very much.
That's not very much.
What would be an average?
Well, I won't worm them unless I know that they have a problem.
Okay.
And you can tell that by looking at eyelids and the way they act, their coat. There's lots of things. And parasites come in all kinds of ways. There's internal parasites, there's external parasites, right? I've never had a problem with lice. Lots of people have problems with lice. But I think with goats, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure thing, it really comes true. I clean their stall once a week, and when I do, I actually use like an insecticide that's not harmful. It's basically like a citronella-based type deal.
Okay.
And I spray it on the floor. Any critters, any of them bugs that are in there don't want to be in there no more. And then I use cedar in there to help, and I've just never had a problem. So I just try and make sure they're the epitome of health because you're asking a lot out of them.
So you're going to say you need at least a few acres.
Well, there's one guy that has 12 goats on an acre.
Okay.
But
he's probably working it harder than, all those preventative measures that you're talking about. He's probably got to do that a little bit more.
I would think, yes.
Yeah.
And you're feeding them. You don't have any extra supplemental feed. You're feeding them, which goats still aren't that expensive to feed. I probably spend... Dude, and I feed them a lot of stuff. I feed them chaff hay, alfalfa, and grain. Up into a certain age, they get grain. I'm probably under $100 a month for 7 goats.
That seems cheap to me.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
it really is.
And when you're packing, I pay $100 a month to not have to pack out an elk 12 miles.
Well, yeah,
that's just not. it's part of the journey, but man, it is not fun. I mean, anybody that says that 120-pound pack that far is fun is smoking something.
Well, yeah, and it's not just about hunting too. I mean, hunting is, for me, that's what it's about, right?
Right.
But it's also about, Jen and I want to go camp at a high lake. We don't have to pack our camp in. We just got to pack ourselves in. Tons of benefits with them. If you have a doe that's in milk, well, you've got fresh milk at camp. You know, you're not going to pack no weight on her. You want to make sure udders aren't so big and full that they're dragging the ground.
Yeah.
But you can take one in there for that.
I never even thought about that.
So goats, meat, milk, cheese, soap. There's a million things that, I mean, a goat is the most versatile livestock animal on the planet. And I'll argue it with anybody because they just are.
So let's go over that. Why would somebody want to use, talking hunting, why would somebody want to use a goat over a mule or a horse? What would be the benefits there? And what would be the drawbacks?
Honestly, for starters, benefits-wise, the shit show that can go on. You know, if you've ever been around horses or mules, I'll tell you what, they're going to do what they want to do. And most humans aren't going to be able to control them, especially if you don't have any knowledge of them.
Right.
But, you know, a horse falls down, gets hung up in something, man, they're kicking and flailing and flipping the frick out, and you can't even hardly get in there without getting hurt yourself. If something bad happens on a horse, either you're getting hurt or he's getting hurt. And you've heard the horror stories on anybody that's ever packed them into the wilderness. Almost everybody that's done it a lot has had an experience where they got hurt or the horse didn't come out, you know, whether it broke its leg or who knows what. I've had goats completely turtle-backed, upside down, all four legs in the air, and they look at me like, are you going to come over here and help me get up? They don't try and hurt you. They don't try and freak out. I don't have to lead them. I don't have to pack feed in, which is great because at the beginning of any trailhead, if you've ever hiked in the wilderness, if you're packing in, you have to have specific type feed to take in because they don't want you taking in something unnatural into the wilderness.
Like an invasive species.
That's it, right. Yeah. So not a problem because I'm not packing nothing. If they want to eat, they'll figure it out, and they will figure it out.
Is there any risk to the animals from goats to like disease, like a sheep to a bighorn?
That's a great question because it's coming up quite a bit, and they're starting to lock or shut goat packers out of certain areas with bighorn sheep. There's a disease called MOVI, and it's, I mean, from what I can gather, it's some type of pneumonia that is in domestic livestock, but it's also in wild populations. The most recent thing, Alaska found MOVI in some of their sheep, and they freaked out.
Wild sheep.
You know, wild sheep.
Okay.
And I would have too.
Yeah.
And so they tested tons of domestic livestock around it. They found 2 cases of MOVI in domestic livestock. The odd thing is it was a completely different strain.
So like they're carriers, or?
I don't think they really know yet. Now, I have a friend who is she's very educated. She is a neurologist in Portland. And so I asked her about that. And she said that strains can mutate. So while it's very possible that this is just a wild strain that they carry and they have, that just is now rearing its ugly head, it's also possible that, she says doubtful, but possible that they got it from a domestic and that it just mutated.
Okay.
So, man, I don't really know all of that. And I would hope to God that it is an impossibility. I mean, I would never want to get a wild sheep population sick off of my goats.
No one would.
But there are things you should have them tested. There are certain things you have to have them tested for. One of the goats I just recently got, I showed you a picture of him tonight, the big sucker. Now, he came from a guy in Washington who had his whole herd tested for MOVI, and it all tested negative. So I already know that he came to me without it.
Okay.
I've never had any of my other goats tested for Movi, but I know they don't have it because I had them tested for everything else, and they're in perfect health.
Mm-hmm.
So unless something came up, they probably don't have Movi, right? So I'm not too worried about it. Problem is, where are we? They're locking us out. They're locking goat packers out of certain places. The Shoshone, they just had a big deal. Shoshone National Forest there, and they wanted goat packers to stay out of certain areas where the bighorns are.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get it,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand it, especially if there's a possibility of it. But they based it without facts, and that's the big thing. You gotta know for a fact that that's what it's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there's a lot to be learned there, and I think that the NAPGA National Pack Goat Association, they're really huge. I'm a member. The money goes to fight things like that because they get pretty upset when you just say, hey, you can't come in here because your goats might make these sheep sick. Well, okay, well, you got to prove it to us first. You can't just lock us out without really, without showing us proof that their illnesses came from our goats or whatever. So they're really good at that and standing up because basically they're locking us out of public land.
Right. Well, you're seeing domestic animals now. Are horses and mules part of that, or is it just the goats?
Well, I don't think that the horses and mules carry a disease that's contractable that can spread. And what they haven't been able to prove is whether or not a domestic goat or sheep can spread it to wild. I'm sure they can. I mean, common sense tells you that, well, if they have diseases that are similar, it's probably likely that they could. But if you have your critters tested, then you should be good to go. And you should have them tested.
Right.
I mean, you should.
It seems like the responsible thing to do.
Absolutely.
Like, why would you want to take your animals into somewhere where you have something, it's a once-in-a-lifetime tag, you're taking it, and you're going to potentially really hurt the population? I think, have them tested, and if they're clean, I mean, I wouldn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, maybe the Rams would get your goat sick. I mean, you never know.
You don't know.
It could be either way.
But most of those diseases, here's the other thing that they throw up, is that they have to have contact. I'm pretty sure Bighorn Sheep's not going to come, make out with one of my goats. I just know they're not going to.
Well, from what I've heard is some of these things can be carried in like the poop, and so if they're feeding and eating in the same areas, that could be possible. But yeah, as far as them kissing each other, that's not going to happen.
I would be shocked that another animal's going to pick up a goat pellet.
Very.
I would be shocked. I don't think that's possible that way.
Okay.
What I do believe is that the disease can be transmissible because it's the similarities. What I don't believe is that you ever have a chance in hell of these things touching faces, and I don't think they're going to eat each other's poop.
Okay.
I just don't think they're going to do it.
Right. Okay.
So, other benefits to goats over horses and mules.
Yeah.
They're a lot less damaging to just. I mean, okay, we can't ride a bicycle in the wilderness, right?
Right.
I mean, you can't, or any motorized anything,
Right.
Well, a horse got some weight, and they'd tear up the trails. I'm not saying they decimate the trails, and I'm not an anti-horsepacker man. I want those guys to be able to do it too. Right. Because if I go against them, well, then they're going to be against me. I want everybody to be able to do what they want.
Right.
But they're less obtrusive that way. I mean, they're just like a deer. They really are. They're not going to tear up the landscape. You're not going to be in there long enough that they're routing out trails.
Right.
Right. They're just way more low impact.
I like that.
Way more.
And I like not having to bring your own feed in there. That to me is really appealing.
Oh, it's huge.
How often would you kind of touched on it earlier, like, so if you're packing in, let's say 10 miles, watering, how's that look like?
They probably wouldn't need it if they didn't want it.
Really? But you think they'd find it on their own?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to cross. I mean, they can drink out of any stream you cross.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to pack your water in, right? I'm assuming you wouldn't.
A
I
little
pack
bit,
it,
but
right,
that's about it.
to
Yeah.
get in,
Less,
but I have
for
a
sure
pump.
less than a gallon, I'll tell you that. Like,
Right.
Probably a water bottle or two.
But you have a pump, right? So you
Yeah.
just pump out any creek you want. Well,
Yeah.
while you're pumping, they're probably going to be right next to you drinking if they need a drink.
Makes sense.
I was talking to a couple down in Arizona. It was really interesting. They have pack goats, and I can't remember where they were, but they were in the desert, and they made a trip. It was like a 5-day trip with their goats, and their goats never drank water the whole time.
Seriously?
And I'm like, how in the hell
That's
did they
crazy.
even live? And they just didn't want it.
That's the camel coming out of them.
That's the camel right there. You know, they got a hidden hump in there somewhere. I don't know.
Right.
But it kind of blew me away.
That is impressive.
And I think there's a lot of things about goats that people don't really know. It's just they just don't know yet. It's funny. I talked to some veterinarians, and I find that and I haven't talked to them all, and I'm sure there's one that's really good at it, but most of them don't know more than I do.
Really?
Which I think is kind of sad. They just don't. They're not. Most people have a goat. They're 4-H. They're breeding dairy goats for a purpose, or they're a brush goat, and they just get thrown out in the back 40, and
Right.
Either they make it, or maybe a cat eats them, or who knows what. Oh, he's out there somewhere. They end up on the
Right.
face of the Callahans. Who knows? You never know.
Right.
And my goats are not like that. They're spoiled little brats, and I've really focused heavily on nutrition and paying attention to nutrition for them because I'm asking a lot out of them. I was kind of shocked by the overall response. I posted something on a Facebook page, and the people just were like, "Oh my God, look at your goats! They're in such great shape." And I didn't really even realize that. I didn't know because I'm not really paying attention to what other people's goats look like, but they are in great shape. Their coats they're just oily and slick, and they're gorgeous, and they're muscle. They're really stout, good shaped goats. When I first start with any goat, they struggle to keep up with you, which you're thinking, gosh, a goat should be able to whip me.
Right.
But after a while, then they don't got no problems, and you might even have to work a little harder to keep up with them.
So you posted some photos online of you going out and practicing, I guess. You've got these like mount systems on them and stuff. How's that even work? And you make that stuff?
So they make. There's a host of different saddles out there, and this is great that we're having this podcast because pretty soon I'm going to have my own YouTube deal up, and I'm gonna show basically product review.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show people the difference in different types of saddles, what I like about them, what I don't like about them. I'm going to be brutally honest, and it might upset some people, but you know what? It's okay. They're progressing in new packs, and I still think they're missing the boat. They have not made the ultimate pack saddle for a goat yet. Okay. I have an idea. I've actually talked to a company. They didn't show a whole lot of interest, so I'm trying now to find other people because honestly, I just don't have the money to spearhead it. I mean, my idea, I need to find somebody that's already kind of in that business to take my idea and make it come to fruition. And I know it's the ultimate pack. I know it's going to change the game for anybody that wants to use pack goats for hunting.
Okay.
So... But yes, they basically, for years it's been the industry standard that you would see on a mule or anything else, the wooden crossbuck with the pad, and then you hang the panniers off of that.
Okay.
And it's great. They're great systems. There's several companies out there that make them. I own one of just about everything out there. There's a couple I don't have, maybe because they're really new, and one of them it's kind of hard to. I don't know how to get a hold of them. I need to get a hold of them because I really want to try one. But what I did was I ordered a couple, and then my brother-in-law in the Midwest, he's really good at woodworking. So I sent him one and said, "Can you build me some of these?" And he knocked them out, and he made just picture perfect replicas. So now, you just got to screw them together, and then you build the pads, and you can build your own.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do your own leather work. Is that part of any the equation there?
Well, so Jen does a lot of the
Okay.
leather pillows, and Jen does the bear rugging, and
Right.
So Jenlyn is she is a whiz on a sewing machine, which is pretty rare in this day and age, especially for a gal her age. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people, you expect the older generation to know that, but
Right.
there's pretty much not anything that she can't do on a sewing machine. And it's amazing too, because I'll come up with this idea like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And she's like, oh, we could totally do it.
Really?
And I'm like, no way. And she's like, if you can draw this or do that, then I'll make it happen. And she does.
Hmm.
So it's been really cool that way. So yeah, we can make our own panniers, which saves you a bundle. And it allows you to either tweak a design that's already kind of there, or kind of make it your own, or make it more functional for you or your goats.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've noticed is like everybody with pack goats is somewhere over east. They're in more open terrain. And they talk about their goats doing this and not doing that. And I kind of sit back and think, gee whiz, I don't know if their goats would be able to hang with my goats, because these guys are Pacific Northwest pack goats. That's what they are. They're in the rainforest over here on the Coast Range.
Right.
A lot of times I'm going through timber, I look back, I can't even see my goats. That's how deep it is in there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're there. You can hear them busting through the brush. They're coming. They'll find their way around. I go through stuff where they kind of look at me like, I'm not going that way. And they'll figure out another way.
Really?
And they're pretty amazing. And, the gear that's out there, it works, but it's a little obtrusive for some of this. The crossbucks, they're running into stuff a lot,
I can see that.
They get hung up on it, and goats are smart. They're not stupid. They're going to get hung up when they're young, but they're going to figure out, oh, well, I got this thing on, so I can't really go through some of these spots. What I want to do is get this saddle that I have in mind built, because it's going to prevent a lot of that hang up. It's going to be sleeker, slimmer, closer fitting, even more so than one of the most recent ones put out there. There's a guy by the name of Mark Warnke. He's probably now the leading guy on YouTube with pack goats. He's done a lot of it, and he's very knowledgeable. And he came up with a design that it's aluminum, and the crossbucks sit a little bit lower profile, off to the side more, not right over their back. It looks like a really cool pack. It's still really rigid, and it still has crossbucks on it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still potential to hang up, and just like wood, it's not going to give. So when it grabs something, it's going to stop the goat,
Makes
and
sense.
he's going to have to go around. So I'm looking at ways to not have that crossbuck on there at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got it. It's there. It's and it's doable. It's just finding somebody that's willing to do it.
Okay.
I don't know how big the market is, so that's a tough thing when you're approaching somebody with an idea. Well, how cheap can you make this? And how big is the market? Because a lot of those guys don't want to dabble with stuff like that.
Right. Right.
It would be cheaper to do it the way he's done it, with aluminum and wood. Heck yeah, it's cheaper. But you're not reaching the ultimate pack saddle. It's just not there yet. And
So it sounds like you're kind of working your way into getting into the goat biz.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know that I'll ever go into like the breeding of pack goats, because, boy, I've got a pretty full plate as it is.
Right.
And so
you do.
that would be kind of tough. But I have some ideas, and I do have enough time to really work goats. I guess my idea is obviously build my own string, so I have them at my leisure to use. What I'd also like to do is maybe sell goats that are no longer prospects. I know they're going to work.
Mm-hmm.
and I know that a person's going to have a useful goat out of that. So you would be purchasing an older goat that has already been trained. He's already been through the ringer, and it's kind of a turnkey deal. Here's your goat. He's ready to go.
Really?
I think that might be a better route for me to go than the breeding.
Or the accessory route, like you're talking about. You got that.
Sure. Or that.
Idea.
Both. Maybe both. Also, I think that people, if you're really going to think about getting into pack goats, you got to really be careful because, I'll tell you right now, you don't want to get too close to them because some of them aren't going to work out. They're just not. And it costs just as much to feed one that doesn't do what you want it to as it does one that does.
Right.
So I've had goats that they're gone. They're down the road. If a goat lays down on me, if he flops on me when I'm out, he's gone. I don't do it. I mean, I don't know about other people, but if he gets that tired that quick, I don't have any use for him. He's not going to work out. I do not like a goat that just thinks, oh, well, I can just lay down here, screw them. That doesn't work for me. And so I've sent a few down the road, sold them cheap. I don't even know what's happened to them. Doesn't matter. I kind of don't get too close to them anymore until I know what. Like, I don't know if you remember Donkey. So I have Shrek and Donkey. It's kind of funny, but he's the blue heeler looking one. Okay, so he's kind of that blue colored and white. He's not very big. Most guys would probably overlook him in a heartbeat, and that's not a pack goat. I'm not taking him. But I'm going to tell you something. I have had that goat to where he could barely lift his hooves. He's just dragging, that tired. And, his mind is somewhere else. He just follows.
Really?
Head down, just follows. There's a value to that goat.
Heart. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of heart. I may never be able to put 30. I may only be able to put 25 pounds on him. But I'm not getting rid of that goat because he'll never quit. And he's very athletic and very agile and goes places those other ones won't. So he'd be a great deer hunting goat. I mean, he's a goat. I guarantee you, he's one of them going when I'm taking him deer hunting. He's going to be one of my goats because if I have to traverse bluffy stuff or whatever, don't even got to worry about him. He's right there.
Really?
And I've got two goats like that. Fox, the black and white one, he's the other one. He's just not very big, but, man, those things are incredible. They're just of what they can do and where they'll go and their willingness to go. And Fox is he's like slowly but surely becoming one of my favorites because you can do no wrong with that goat. If I walk up there and just get him in a bear hug, I can touch him wherever I want. I can hold him and do whatever I want, and he just doesn't care. And I have a picture. I need to post it. The other day I was out there filling up their water thing, and I was like, goats are notorious for hating water. Okay. Now, again, mine are Western Oregon goats, so they better suck it up because we get a little bit of water around here.
Right.
So I just thought, I wonder how sketchy he really is about water. A lot of these people train their pack goats with squirt bottles, spray bottles. If it's a correction thing, if they don't want them in camp, they spray them in the face. Get out of here, And so I just thought, well, I wonder, because Fox is one of those that I see out in the rain a lot. So I just thought, well, I got the hose right here. So I turn it on, and I just start spraying him. And he just stands there and looks at me. And before long, this goat is completely soaked. And he just stood there and loved it like, so squirt bottling going to work on Fox.
Yeah.
It's not. So
They rolled up newspaper or something.
which makes me feel good about my goats because they are not afraid of the rain.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of water. They'll cross, they'll walk in it, they'll do what. If I go there, they'll usually go. I mean, there are times where they're not too keen on it, so they'll find themselves a different route to catch up to you.
Okay.
But I never worry about them not coming. They're always right behind me somewhere.
So how long of a span will you get out of the goat?
That's a great question. So, Goats, generally when you get a goat, they're somewhere between 3 and 4 months old.
Okay.
They're weaned now, and so now you have this baby goat that doesn't really know anything, and you're going to spend the next 3 years preparing him to become a pack goat, which means, you're not really going to put any weight on this goat. You'll ruin him if you just, like Dubs, he's a big old goat, and he's just a yearling, and you think, I can put 30 pounds on him, no
Right.
problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could, and you could do it,
Mm-hmm.
but if you did it a lot, you're going to wreck him.
How so?
It just, their skeletal structure's not mature enough. Their joints and stuff, all that, it's weight. It'd be like taking your 7-year-old out and putting an L-cam on him every weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, here you go, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's healthy. I really don't. And guys tell you, don't do it. You'll wreck your goat. You'll break him down, and by the time he's of mature age, he won't be any good. I'm a little, a lot of guys, they have what they call a kid pack. And I have one, and really it's kind of a joke. They put them on, they're a year old, and they got this little lightweight pack. It doesn't weigh anything. We'll put bubble wrap in it, and we'll do this and that to puff up the panniers and make them feel like they're doing something. My goats, when they're a year old and 100 pounds, 100 plus pounds, because most of them are by the time they're a year old, I put a crossbuck saddle on them. The whole rigging weighs about 7 pounds. And
That doesn't seem like that much.
it's not that much. And they wear it, and they're using it, and that's what they get. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't care. I haven't seen any damaging things to it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just get them used to wearing a pack. It gets them used to wearing a pack, and there's actual weight there. Because the first time they wear it, you're going to wear them out. It's going to be a lot to them. It doesn't seem like it, but it is.
Okay.
And I've noticed it. So, you keep your hike shorter. You don't walk them 15 miles. Just do 4 or 5. Mm-hmm. The other thing is a lot of the pack goats that you'll see and you'll watch, they're on trails. They're on trails going into the wilderness and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My goats don't get a trail. If they get a trail, it's a deer trail.
Huh.
They go up, they go down. It's nasty. It's not. It's whatever. Wherever I want to go, I take them. Because you're probably not going to kill a Roosevelt elk on some piss flat trail.
Right.
It's going to be in some nasty hole, and it's going to be hard. It's hard for us. It's going to be hard for that goat too. So I want them to get used to the terrain that they're going to be in and know that we could be going anywhere. I don't know where we're going. I don't know where it's going to be, but it could be anywhere. And they have. And I want them used to it with some weight now. Shrek is old enough now. I can start putting some weight on him. I could probably put 20 pounds on him and walk him pretty good. And I do. He carries more than anybody else because he's the oldest. It's just a kind of a slow progression. So you have to be patient. I mean, you're not going to, unless you're buying, adult goats that have already proven to do it, you're not going to just be going right out there and pack them with goats.
3 years out.
You're 3 years out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Huh. And they'll probably pack until they're 10.
And how much training does that take? How often are you getting out there walking them?
Well, I try and do once a week. I do.
Okay.
I'm busy this time of year, and it just doesn't always work out that way. And, I try and do more than that. When I can in the summer, when it's lighter, longer, I'll step it up to 3 times a week. I might do 2 miles one day, 6 miles one day, 2 miles, 3 miles, 4 miles. I try and, I do what I can with them. We've kind of been on a break because, as you know, Dubs got cut and damn near bled to death.
Yeah,
and,
I remember you telling me about that.
I just couldn't risk taking him out there, and he steps over a log and opens that thing up again, and I'm 8 miles from the house because he ain't gonna make it. And so he's kind of been on injured reserve there for a while, and he's normal now, and I know I can take him out. But we also got those 2 new ones, and I want to take them out really bad, but they're still really young, and they've recently been banded. So
Oh.
I'm waiting for those things to drop off, because you don't want to snag them when you're out there and then have another problem.
Yeah.
Because I've had that problem too. And I think that's another thing that's a great thing for people to know about goats. Brush up on your goat husbandry. Know everything you're going to need and have it on hand, for whatever the possibilities are. Goats, when they get sick, they don't do very well. I don't know why. If they're sick, they're not very tough, and they can die on you pretty quick.
Really?
You can have a healthy goat one day, go out there, God, he's off his feet. He's a little bit weird. And the next morning he's dead because you didn't act. You didn't figure it out. You didn't give him what he needed right then and there to get him back on track. So study up on that, I think, before you ever even get a goat, and have those materials on hand at the house. So you've got it, it's there, and you can administer any kind of medication you might have to. This sucker just barely the cut was like a half inch. It's tiny, but it went so deep that it hit an artery. And when we got home, we weren't home when it happened. We pull up, Jen's like, "Oh my God, look at Dubs." And honestly, I've been around a lot of critters, and I don't think I've ever seen a critter with that much blood on him and still alive.
Yeah.
So I was shocked. And so we got him down in the yard. We rinsed him off with the hose. I took him down to the ground, and he had a little bit of fight left. So I was like, okay, so we got some time. We just got to figure it out now. And I honestly thought his whole chest was cut out. I didn't know. I couldn't tell because there was so much blood. We get in. I'm like, well, it's not there. Where in the hell is this thing? And then pretty quick, we're rinsing his legs, and I see it just spray out of. It was just below his dew clot. It just sprayed, and I'm like, oh crap, So luckily we got it stopped, and we did it all on our own. I mean, I'm kind of one of those advocates. It's still a goat, and you gotta. Even though I love them, I'm not gonna pay thousands of dollars to get this goat fixed. If I can't do it. And I know it sounds kind of crummy to say that, but
right.
Honestly, you go broke trying to keep this thing healthy, or you can do your due diligence and learn everything you can learn and fix it yourself.
So where are some places that folks can go to get that knowledge? I mean, we're helping you start what are you calling it?
P&W Pack Goats.
P&W Pack Goats, and the YouTube page is officially made.
It is, thank you, because this guy is just not very keen on this new age stuff.
Good internet goes a long ways.
It does, but also knowing how to do it.
Right.
It goes,
right.
I mean, I'm just lost in a lot of things, but I do appreciate that.
Hey, not a problem. So we have you a YouTube channel, Pacific Northwest Pack Goats. If you search for it, it might not pull up yet.
Right.
But we're going to be working on getting you some videos up for folks that want to learn the Pack Goat game. And then is there any way that they can reach you, or do you prefer to just do it through the YouTube right now, or?
Right now we'll start that, and then, I will be open to people being able to, get a hold of me and if they have questions and stuff.
Okay.
Back to your other question, is there places to go?
Yeah.
There are websites out there, and there's a tons of Facebook pages. I'm not on all of them, but there are ones for dairy goat breeders that if you had an instance, you can get on there and say, hey man, my goat's this, what do I do? NAPGA, there's an NAPGA page. Sometimes there's some good information on that
on Facebook.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's readily accessible.
It's readily accessible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there. One of the ones that and now I'm going to lose my train of thought, but there's a golly, I wish I could think of the name. I'm just going to have to get back to it, but I went and it's online. It's a .com. It's a web address, and it's a website. And this lady has been doing it for 30, 40 years, and she, in high detail, explains different problems that you can have with your goats and how to cure them. And it was just a plethora of information, and I learned a lot off of that. Feed, supplemental feed, diagnosis of things, tons of stuff, and how to fix it. And so I always kind of result back to that if I have an issue. But I had an issue with Dubs. God, he's been my problem child. So you band a goat. Basically, it's the way to neuter your goat. It's a way to neuter your goat, and it's God, it's been around for eons. I mean, everybody does it to all kinds of livestock. So basically, what it is it's a for lack of better terms, if you could imagine a very heavy-duty braces rubber band or an O-ring, thick, and it goes just above their testicles, and it basically just cuts it off, and eventually they just fall off.
Right.
Okay. So generally that's the way it's supposed to work. No infection, no nothing. Everything's, hunky-dory, and pretty soon he's neutered, right? Well, so Dubs, we went to call him in for the night. One night he doesn't show up, and I'm like, well, that's weird. Where is he? Well, Jeep, the little dog, he runs down, he kicks him up, he finds him because I told him go get the goat. Where's he at? So he brings him up, and I noticed that he's not doing good. He's pretty sick acting, and his testicles are way lower than they should be because when you put that band on, initially they'll swell a little bit, and he's going to waller around and be real sick for the first day or two, and then eventually, the numbness and it just all goes away, and now they start to shrivel up and shrink, and eventually they fall off. Well, it was to that flat, shrunk up little piece of tissue there, but now it's hanging way down between his legs, and there's blood everywhere, and I'm thinking, what went on? So obviously he had caught him on something and pulled him down, and I freaked out. It's 7:30 at night. You know where we live.
Yeah.
This is an after-hours vet call. The closest one I could find was Eugene. I don't know what to do. I'm like, what the hell? So I go on Facebook, and I give him pictures. I have this problem. What can I do? What I got back was, well, this is why we don't band our goats. This is why we only do it this way. This is this. Nobody had a solution.
Right.
And I didn't get on there to hear all this is why we don't. Because I got a problem right now. So I called a lady who I have a lot of trust in. She's local. She's down in just south of Canyonville there. And I've purchased a few goats from her, and she's pretty knowledgeable. And she says, do you have any dental floss? And I'm like, well, yeah, who doesn't? Well, just go up above where that band was and, a couple half hitches and tie it off. And, that's what you're going to have to do. So we went a little bit step further. We did do that. We, pinned him down, tied it off, and then we took surgical scissors and actually cut below where we tied it off and got rid of that. And then just treated it with iodine and stuff and made sure he was healthy and no harm, no foul. It worked. But, most people probably would have loaded him up and took him to the vet, and that would have been a healthy bill. So there's things that you can do. You just need to know, some basic animal husbandry and be able to administer it. And don't be afraid. I mean, you might lose a goat, and you're probably gonna. Over the course. I haven't yet, but it's probably coming. It's going to happen. So that's one reason why I don't buy those $500 goats from back east. These guys that raise these big pack goats that, they want $500 a piece. I'm not saying they're not worth it. They probably aren't. I don't want to talk anything bad about that. But at the end of the day, he's still a prospect. You don't know if he's going to work out. So I feel a lot more comfortable about spending $100 on a goat that may or may not work out than I do $500. And they still want to sell their product, and I think their goats are great, and I do believe in everything they're telling you. They when they on these $500 goats, yes, they're bred specifically to be pack goats. Yes, they're all bottle babies. back to the bucket thing, right? Because they produce a lot of goats and they're not bottle feeding each one. They couldn't. So I believe all that. But they also don't know what it's going to do yet. He's just a baby. They're selling you a baby, right? So if you do your due diligence and you research, you'll find people that have large goats. Some of them are actually even breeding them pack specific. And you're not even going to sniff that price. And you still don't know if he's going to work out. Right. So you spent less, you've raised him up, by the time they're 3 years old, it's more than $100 anyway, man. You fed this sucker, you've purchased saddles and tack for him, and you've worked him, and your time is worth something. So that's one thing that I don't think that you have to go there. I do think your average dairy breeder's probably not going to breed what you want. They're just not going to be of size. But if you can find someone like this gal down here, she's been willing to work with me. That's how I got Dubs. It was kind of like, listen, I know you mainly breed La Manchas, but you have some other goats. Would you be willing to do a cross? This with this. That's kind of what I'm looking for, just to see what'll happen. Look at him. Look at that sucker. He's a giant.
Yeah.
And she's still willing to work with me. So, the future, the future's pretty open. We'll see.
I'd really like to get a Rosie down and see what those things can do.
Me too. I mean, I will.
You'll be one of my first phone calls then.
I will definitely, when I have a good solid string, I will definitely be open to doing that. I mean, I want to see. These goats are different than the average because they're in different terrain. They're just so. That's and that goes back to what I was saying earlier. This isn't just for hunters. I mean, there's people that like to go fish and just enjoy the wilderness and things like that. And don't let age or maybe that old achy knee get you down because you only need a couple to pack your camp. You don't need 6 or 7. You only need 2 or 3, maybe 4, whatever you're willing to deal with and put up with and what you have room for. And they'll get you out there. They'll do it, and they're great pets. None of my goats are noisy, which is a huge thing, and that goes back to breeds or certain breeds, and I can cover that. I will cover that in my PNW Pack Goats series and stuff. I will cover that because I can't have a noisy goat. There's nothing like ringing a dinner bell out there where I live, and I don't want them because sure as hell, if a cat does come to me, he's not going to kill that one that's caterwauling out there. He's going to kill the best one I got. That's the way that's going to work, right? So my goats are ultra quiet, and I've just been lucky. But I did breed research, and I made sure that I got ones that I wasn't going to have to worry about that way. So
that makes sense. Sounds like you put a lot of time and effort and energy into this.
I have. I mean, I have, and I've been really lucky, too, because I've had, like Lynn, the gal that I got some of the goats from, she's helped a lot. Chad, my brother-in-law, built all those crossbucks for me. I've had some help, but mainly I've had a lot of encouragement. Jen has put up with it. She actually kind of put her foot down this year. She's like, listen, we're not getting another goat. And I was like, you know what? It's fair. It's fair because, it's really hard to get rid of them. Like those two, I'd put so much work into them. I didn't really want to sell them off, but I knew that I needed to in order to get where I need to be. So I did. And I got some pretty solid youngins out of it. I think Oak, which is the big chunky sucker that you saw, I think that he'll probably grow to be the biggest goat I have. He is ultra friendly. He really is. I mean, before I came out here, I had some appointments and a bunch of crap. I just had a super busy day, and you called me and told me to get some stuff gathered up for the other podcast. I'm walking out to the truck and I'm looking at my goats. I'm like, I just put them out in the field. That's the only time I gotta go talk to them. And nobody else wanted to deal with me tonight. They just all kind of stayed out there. But here he comes. That little, he came over to get petted and loved
Really?
on a little bit. And I was like, man, I'm really going to like this goat. I can tell I am. He's really, you can tell he's special, and he's very smart, and he's just a pup, and I can't wait to see what the future is with him.
Yeah.
So they've kind of got me. I got bit by the goat bug, if you will, a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested to see what the future holds with them.
Well, you're the first person I know that's dove into this area, and so I'm kind of watching with a keen eye here. I'm like, I want to see, just exactly how does all this work and play out, and I want to see him in action personally. So I mean, this is not just do I want to get the good information out there. I'm kind of like keeping it all in the back of my head here because, we've got 22 acres out in Melrose, my folks do. We got plenty of room for goats out there. And so if I need to maybe get into this goat game, I'm going to see how it pans out, Like it sounds like you would be definitely a great guy to go off of for this. And in that Pacific, it's not going to be Pacific Northwest pack goats. It's PNW.
PNW pack
all
goats.
one word, and then another word pack, another word goats, or is it one word pack goats?
I think I think that's how we set it up was PNW pack goats.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But if you catch any of my hashtags, it's all one. Obviously, it's all
On Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Naldo Sherpa 71.
Okay.
And I
How do you
post.
spell that?
How do I spell what?
Naldo Sherpa.
Naldo Sherpa, Naldo.
Okay.
Sherpa, just like Sherpa is spelled, SHERPA, and then 71.
71, and that's on Instagram.
That's on Instagram.
And you got your goat stuff on there currently?
I have some stuff on there. I just post pictures and stuff of us, doing some hikes and stuff like that.
Cool.
Obviously, I don't do a whole lot on my personal Facebook page. But if you're on NAPGA page, I might, I've posted some videos already on that. How I load them into the pickup, how we feed them at night. Basically, I think just maybe like my barn setup. Because guys
which is
are
impressive. I'd like to have a video of that on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, and it needs to be because I see people asking all the time, and that's why I posted it on the page. I did the video for the Facebook page. How do I do this, man? They're running them off. The bigger goats are kicking the little ones' butts. Well, they're gonna. And it's just a pecking order thing, and it's not going to be forever, but it is right now. And so to combat that, if you set it up to kind of the way I have, trust me, I went through all this, and I didn't ask anybody. I'd look at Jen, I'm like, how, these two are the only ones eating. They're literally trying to kill anybody else. She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what if we tied them to the wall? Oh, that's a great idea. So, we went down to the co-op. We found those little buckets you can hang on 2x4s, and I built it all. And it worked. And I'm like, God, isn't this so much more pleasurable? And so, and then there's things that I have learned from other people, too. Like my hay feeders, they're not my design. I saw somebody else, hey, man, you build them like this, and it allows everybody to eat, Even if this guy wants to be a dick, this guy will run over here and still be able to eat, and and it works. So playgrounds, that's something very important for just your goats' mental health. They don't want a flat yard. They need to be able to climb up on stuff and jump on stuff. And so I built a playground in one of the fields that I don't know if it was there the last time you were out. But
I don't think it was.
But I built one, and then on the creek, down along the creek, I've dumped trees and left them just so that one is perfect. Goes right across the creek. They can walk and traverse and learn how to walk across logs, and it's a realistic playground. And
that's pretty cool.
And the playground I built there in the pasture, it basically was out of stuff that I just had laying around. I went down to the tire center down here off of Diamond Lake.
Oh, Tire Pros?
No, the Lauren Young.
Lauren Young, okay.
And so I said, hey, man, you guys got any old tires that you just throw away? Yeah, we're going to take them. What do you want them for?
I've got 4 down by my garage you can have.
I went and buried those things. They're perfect. They jump up on them. They play.
Yeah.
I just buried them standing up like they'd be sitting on the rig,
Yeah.
And I just thought, Well, that was cheap.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, a little bit of digging, and there you go. You got an instant goat playground. So they're really not expensive. The most expensive part is going to be your tack. We've done okay because we can build it, right? Or Chad's built some of it, and we can build the rest. So that's going to be your biggest investment, I think, other than time.
Okay.
So I think it's great. It's very small in our state. There's not a lot of people.
Right.
Like when you become a member of NAPGA, they show you, like, they have a little map with these little dots where everybody is, and I was like, oh my God, there's nobody in Oregon.
Really?
But as soon as you get a little bit east of Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, man, there's lots of guys out there doing it. I don't know how much they do it. I don't think there's a ton of guys that are really diehard at it. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of room to grow. I think that people, you can get bit by them pretty easy, you know, and they would always, now that I've done all the research beforehand, I already knew that goats were for me over any other pack animal. Mm-hmm. You can have your llamas, you can have your alpacas, you can have all of them. I'm not dealing with their attitude. I'm not dealing with any of that. I have to pack them in and feed them. And most importantly for me was the leading them. Anytime you're leading an animal, I don't care who you are, how big and tough you think you are, those critters are stronger than you.
They're bigger.
They're going to jerk you right off your feet if they want to.
Right.
So the fact that I don't have to lead a goat who is ultimately stronger than you are. They're strong critters, and they'll just follow. That sold me. That, and I don't have to pack feed, don't have to worry about the water.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is they are the most versatile critter on the planet, I think.
Right.
You know,
at least the most versatile pack animal, because all the other ones you would have to carry the extra stuff for them.
Yep.
So. Well, I really appreciate this podcast because I know there, like you said, there's a huge room for basically a knowledge gap to be filled.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you're going to be the guy to step up and fill that with the YouTube page.
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm learning too. That's the beauty of it is I can wholeheartedly come in and say I don't really know squat. You know, I know what I know from what I've learned.
Right.
But there's so much more to know, and I don't think anybody out there really knows it all yet. I think there's a ton of stuff to learn, and lots of room for advancement. And you know, I want to be part of it. I just want to be. I really want to be part of that pack goat community, and I want to help other people if they're wanting to get into it, and not just with what kind of goat you know you should have for your specifics, because all of us are different, and I don't want to just be like, oh, you only need them, you know, to pack for hunting. you know, I want anybody that thinks they want to have goats and enjoy them to be able to use them for their level. You know, I mean, not all of us are marathon runners, right? So you might not need to have that goat that's like built like that. You may be able to get by just fine with something else. And then the big thing is just your pack saddle. I have an idea that, I mean, I'm hoping that someone will kind of glom onto it and help me produce this thing, because I think it will be a game changer for the future of I mean, I think I have an idea. It's not anything new, but it's new to the pack goat world, and I think it will. You know, it just, if you're uncomfortable carrying a pack, if you got a crummy pack, let's go back to the days real quick of the aluminum pack frame.
Oh,
okay, just for starters, what's one of the things you hated about an aluminum pack frame?
They hurt. They weren't comfortable.
Right. And did you notice that every time you had a good heavy load on and you stepped over something, it just want to try and flip you, turtle back you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's because they're rigid. They don't move. They don't move with you. They're not fluid with a human, and so they just don't work very well. They haven't changed that in the pack goat world, right? But in our world, there's so many different packs out on the market now. We can go harder, we can go longer, and that weight doesn't really feel like that weight. Why aren't we doing that with our pack animals?
That's a really good question.
Because they're no different. they're not rigid little robots. They move fluidly, and so they need to have something that's super comfortable for them, right? I mean, you're asking a hell of a lot out of this animal to pack your stuff for you.
The gear to be capable.
And
be comfortable.
And
really.
be comfortable, yeah. I mean, I guarantee you, your dog ain't gonna do it. You put something heavy on him that ain't comfortable, he's gonna look at you like you're out of your mind. So there's room for improvement there, and I want to be part of it because I think I have some great ideas. I don't have to be I don't really want to be a trendsetter. So you know me, I'm pretty humble about stuff. I don't really want to.
But if there's a room for somebody to step up and you're the guy, why not be it? Why not fill that gap?
Well,
and you got the passion and the drive to do it. You got the goats. You got the learning curve going. I mean, you just seem like you've really dove into it head first.
I have. I definitely. Yeah, I did, and but I don't regret it, and I'm really glad, and I'm too invested now to just kind of hang it all up. Yeah. I'll just keep on, and I just want people to realize how fun they are, and that you can do it. But with that being said, there's a commitment,
right?
They're a critter, and there's a huge commitment. So they're not for everybody. They aren't. Obviously, we've talked about it. Where are you gonna put them here, right?
Right. I don't have a spot here. That'd be out at my folks' range.
Right.
So
it's doable. But they're again, if you're, they kind of tie you down. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the other thing too. A lot of people want to be on the go. Well, you still got to feed them.
Right.
If you ain't taking them, somebody's got to be there to feed them. So yeah.
Right. So is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap this up?
Man, I don't know. I think we did pretty good.
I think we did good. I learned more about goats than I ever thought I'd know.
You might have one next week.
Oh man, let's just when we go downstairs. If you say anything about a goat, she would get one on a whim just to have one. I know Anthony's wife wants a mini goat and a mini pig.
So, what do you? I mean,
so I've been putting the bug in here.
You better be starting
pictures,
shooting mini critters. Then I mean, he better go quail hunting.
Oh yeah. But thanks again for coming on the show, man. Dude, I really do appreciate it. PNW Pat Goats YouTube, and then Naldo Sherpa 71.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
And
you can already DM him on Instagram, follow him or subscribe to him on the YouTube channel, and just watch him grow because I'm going to be doing that. I'll be helping him along the way with videos and stuff. And if you guys have any questions, you can email me. You can email direct message Wayne on Instagram, and we'll be sure to get your questions answered for anybody that wants to get in the Pat Goat game.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on.
Hey,
it's been great.
I think we're definitely going to have you on here again sometime or another. But so, all right, brother. Well, I'll let you get going. It's already pretty late, but thanks for stopping by, and everybody listen, and I'll see you on the next one.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right, bye. All right, guys, that's a wrap for episode 3. Thanks, Wayne, for coming on to the show and going over Pat Goats. Definitely a wealth of knowledge there and a lot to digest. And he is also a resource for you if you want to learn more as well. This episode is also brought to you by Hunter's Hall, which is a subscription box full of tons of goodies and new gear and things that will surprise you in the mail monthly that you can use. And be sure upon checkout to save yourself some money by using the code OPTEN, OP10, and that will save you 10% to get that box under $40 a month. And good company, they're expanding, they're growing, they're adding new options available for the boxes, and it's just really cool to see what they put in it each month. It's like a nice little surprise to yourself, and you're trying out gear that maybe you haven't heard about, that you don't know about, that you want to try, and you're getting it all at a discounted price, just bundled together in a monthly subscription box. So check out Hunter's Hall, and be sure to use the code OP10. Save yourself some money there. So thanks, everybody, for watching this episode. Another friendly reminder, leave me a 5-star review if you think I've earned it. And then also, if you can, enter a comment with it as well to be sure to enter yourself into my next giveaway with onX Maps. And chances are still good. Going to be probably a 1 in 10 chance of winning. So throw your name in the hat, leave a review and a comment on iTunes, get yourself entered. So as always, guys, I will see you on the next one. Bye.